Hare Krishna, everyone. Namaste, and welcome to our sacred journey through the timeless wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita. In this series, we explore each shloka not just as words, but as mirrors that reflect our inner struggles, questions, and spiritual longing. The Gita is more than a scripture, it is a dialogue of the soul, guiding us through the battlefield of life with clarity and courage. Today, we begin to uncover the deeper meanings hidden within the verses, connecting ancient wisdom to our modern challenges. Let's pause, breathe, and step into the divine conversation between Lord Krishna and Arjuna, a conversation that speaks to every seeker across time. As we dive into the shlokas, listen not just with your mind but with your heart, for the Gita speaks in silence as much as in sound. In the sacred land of Kurukshetra, the battlefield was not just a stretch of soil soaked in the anticipation of war. It was a mirror to the human mind. As the conch shells echoed through the skies and the two mighty armies aligned like day and night preparing to clash, a deeper battle stirred. One not of weapons, but of dharma, of duty, and of identity. The Bhagavad Gita begins not with Krishna's voice, nor Arjuna's turmoil, but with a question of an old blind king, Dhritarashtra. His voice trembles not with love for his sons, but with the anxiety of attachment, as he asks, "What did my sons and the sons of Pandu do, assembled at the field of righteousness?" The single line is more than a query, it is a confession of bias, of blindness not just in the eyes, but in the soul. Dhritarashtra knew the war was inevitable, yet he still hoped for another path. His question reveals his clinging, his delusion, and the subtle currents of power and fear that often guide our choices under the illusion of righteousness. Sanjaya, the charioteer, begins his divine narration. He sees not just with his eyes, but through the divine vision gifted by Vyasa. He sees the external war, yes, but more importantly, he sees the internal tremors within the hearts of men. He describes how Duryodhana, the Kaurava prince, approaches his teacher Drona, not with reverence but with strategic alertness. This is not a student seeking wisdom, but a leader calculating strength. Even in reverence, his tone is political. He points at the Pandava army and says, "Behold, O teacher, the mighty army of the sons of Pandu, arrayed by the son of Drupada, your wise disciple." There is a venom in these words, not of anger, but of insecurity dressed as pride. Duryodhana, born a prince, nurtured in power, always feared righteousness because it shone too brightly next to his ambition. His words twist honor into sarcasm. He calls Drupada's son, Drishtadyumna, who was born from fire to destroy Drona, as your disciple. The psychological depth here is profound. He invokes Drona's past wound, the betrayal, to stoke fire within his teacher. Manipulation in the guise of strategy. It's the eternal ego that whispers, "Use their past against them." As he continues, Duryodhana lists the warriors on the Pandava side, not to admire them, but to stir vigilance among his own. Each name he utters is soaked in an undercurrent of fear. The names he speaks, Bhima, Arjuna, Satyaki, Virata, Drupada, are not just warriors. They are symbols of virtue, of past victories, of karmic debts waiting to unfold. The battlefield is not random. Each man stands where destiny placed him. This is the brilliance of the Gita. It never rushes to Krishna's wisdom. It patiently lays out the battlefield of the mind. Duryodhana's speech is not just about war. It's about how we interpret the world when led by ego. How fear makes us flatter, how insecurity makes us exaggerate, and how our minds twist the truth to justify our desires. Every sentence in these verses is a psychological case study. Dhritarashtra's question reveals the blindness of attachment. Sanjaya's vision reminds us that true insight comes only when ego is silenced. And Duryodhana's speech shows how pride is always a mask for inner conflict. This is not mythology, this is us, each of us every day, facing Kurukshetra in our minds, choosing between reaction and reflection, between impulse and insight. The Bhagavad Gita begins not with answers but with exposure. Before wisdom arrives, illusions must be stripped bare. Before Krishna speaks, the noise of the world must echo loud enough for us to finally listen. And in these opening verses, the Gita holds up a mirror not to gods but to the vulnerable humanity within us all. As the armies stand poised, the chariots gleam under the morning sun, and thousands prepare for what seems like an external war. But we, the readers, are invited to look within. What are our attachments? Where is our blindness? Which voices inside us are like Duryodhana, strategic, manipulative, afraid? And which are like Sanjaya, silent, observant, untouched? This is the Gita's subtle genius. It doesn't preach, it provokes. It doesn't begin with divine light. It begins in the shadows of doubt. Because only through facing our inner Duryodhana can we one day hear Krishna's voice. So in this first chapter, the battlefield is set. But the war is not just of arrows, it is of clarity against confusion, duty against desire, awareness against ignorance. The Gita does not rush. It allows you to feel every layer of this emotional, psychological, and spiritual crisis. And that is why this ancient scripture remains timeless, because the battlefield outside is temporary, but the one within is eternal. Join me in this journey through each verse, each dilemma, and each awakening, because the Gita is not a war story, it is our story.